with Team 45-45 League, analyzing the game between Michael Q2D5 and Dinnan. This was played in Team Event 53. This is a leftover game from the second round, and both teams are tied at 1.5, so this is a decisive game in the match. It's in the under 2200 section, and let's have a look. Okay. So far, we've all seen this position before. It's book, and it's kind of a quiet line, and I don't know all the theory and exactly when book diverges, but that's not my job. That's yours, to investigate the game further and find improvements. I'll just offer some suggestions as we go. Okay, so now the position is less like a Slav defense and more like the Queen's Gambit declined exchange variation, but there's a couple of differences. The first one is that in the normal exchange variation, this dark squared bishop of whites is out on g5, and it's not there right now. It's stuck behind a wall of pawns. Okay, and a lot of times in the Queen's Gambit decline, the black queen bishop is the one that suffers, kind of like a French bishop, so to speak. And yet here, because of the exchange, it is now activated. Now the question is, when are both sides going to deploy those pieces? And I'll keep talking about it. Look at the queen rooks and the queen bishop on both sides. Neither is moved. When are they going to move? How long are they going to stay there? How long is white and black going to give odds of a queen rook and a queen bishop? When's it going to end? Okay. Let's go on. Now, g4. Now the game takes on an extremely interesting character. This is a pawn sacrifice. I've seen similar pawn sacrifices. I'm not sure if this is the same one as something the Soviets, or I guess not Soviets anymore, some of these Russian or former Soviet bloc grandmasters came up with. I was looking at a video of one recently where they had these ideas of gambiting this pawn, and I know in can't remember exactly the variation, but Kasparov played Deep Blue, was it? And they uncorked a novelty, something like this. Maybe it really wasn't a novelty, but he played it against Deep Blue and then won this really nice game against the computer, and it involves sacrificing a pawn in this type of position for attacking chances. And I don't know if it's the same one or not. I don't really care, but I wanted to bring up that sometimes we can find new life in old positions, and certainly the sacrifice looks good in terms of what it does. If white doesn't do it, he doesn't really have a lot going here. It's basically a slow game. Think about it. What's white's plan? He could castle kingside, which just seems logical, right? Okay. Then he completes his development. Got to find some square for this bishop, even if it just parks itself on d2 and waits. And then white can go about some of the old methods of handling the Queen Gambit exchange variation, play for the minority attack. And what's the purpose of the minority attack? I've covered this in some other videos. The purpose is when white gets a pawn to b5, one of two things will happen. If black exchanges on b5 with his c pawn, then black gets an isolated d pawn, and that's a target for white to play for later. And if black doesn't exchange, then white will exchange on c6, and if black takes back with the pawn, then black now has a backward pawn on the open file, and white has a nice outpost c5 and pressure on the open file. That's what white will do. So what's black supposed to do while white's doing all that? You know, he gets a say in the matter too. And I've had one video, one event where, let's see, who was it? Big H and Just Insane, I think. It's in Team 52, where black defended the position, the minority attack, by advancing his queenside pawns and basically stopping all of white's plan of action against the black queenside. And Big H had to settle down, and I think it was Big H, he had to settle down and find a new plan, and he ended up winning Game of the Week as a result of that game and the way he handled it. So what black's supposed to do, but they don't always do what they're supposed to. Black is in turn supposed to start his own minority attack with pawn f4 to f5, and the principles are the same. If white exchanges on f5, now white has an isolated, or on f4, white has an isolated pawn on a d4. And if white doesn't exchange, then black takes on e3, and white gets an isolated pawn, or backward pawn on the open e file. And that's the basic idea of the exchange variation. Okay, so I've covered that before. It's worth repeating again. And what I'll do is go on with the game. And like I say, I don't know if this is the same one that the Soviet bloc, Eastern Europeans have come up with or not. I don't know. But black accepts the gambit. And again, this could be and probably is theory, but I don't know the theory on it. So who knows what's happening here. But here's the idea. White immediately gets his pawn back and gets a check. And I guess we're in a position, white's going to leave that bishop there on h7 for a while, and I guess the idea is if black tries to trap the bishop, that white will just give it up for two more pawns and have a target, the exposed black king. But really, white's going to need some firepower to help. Okay, at the moment, like I said earlier, here's that queen, rook, and queen bishop that haven't helped, and it's not sure exactly how they're going to get into play. Although later, perhaps pawn could go to e4, which activates this bishop if it's needed. So that might not be that far away, and white might not be able to get this queen rook into the attack, but he might a little later castle queenside and then swing the rook over. So and the white knight on c3 isn't really helping, but it can get there. It can maneuver its way into action. So anyway, black in the meantime, he's got resources here on the queen side that can come over to help out if need be. And then once they get moving, he can get more pieces over. So let's see what happens. Okay, so rook g1, and then here's one of the main points of the sacrifice, that now that white's opened up a file and he's going to occupy it, and it does put the question to the black knight. Now, if this is book, I'm sure everything's been covered, and I'm not going to try to solve it. But if this is something you might think you might like to try as white, then definitely dig into the databases and see what's up. So the first idea that just runs through my mind, just out of logic, is to play knight d7 to f6. And the reason I suggest that move is it double protects the knight on g4. Okay, the knight will guard it and the bishop will guard it, and then of course that opens up diagonal for the bishop to come into play. So I don't know what's wrong with knight df6, but it could be a playable move. Another move which strikes me is just to take the bull by the horns and grab a pawn. Why not? I can't. Let's see. Let's just look at a couple things. If knight takes, bishop takes, and now rook here, and black has to be very careful, or he could lose this as he ends up losing in the game. Okay, let's see what are black's candidate moves here. If you move the bishop, you have a major problem here. Okay, let's just bring the bishop back to d6. Now, unless I'm blind, it looks like white mates in 2. Can you see it? Pause the video if you can't. Okay, you started again. It seems like this move just does poor black in. What can he do? He can take with the king. I think that's all he can do, unless he wants to drop his queen in on h4 first, you know. But anyway, now obviously we have a mate, so let's back it up. Okay, so what's the other move? Queen h4, and that might not be bad. It's gonna be a moment before white can take advantage of the pin on h2. He would like to play f4, double attacking the bishop, but the pawn is pinned. So in the meantime, black is also threatening to play here. Queen takes h7. So I don't know if this is any good. Probably is. So, like I say, we're not trying to prove this position. We're just trying to come up with some improvements for black because what he played didn't work. Okay, so if we can find an improvement for white, then we will. So black chose queen f6, and that's fine. It's in some respects it's trying to play bishop take or g6. It's trying to prepare g6 to trap that bishop so that white doesn't get a whole bushel basket of pawns for it. At the same time, it counterattacks a knight, so black will leave the knight on g4 on pre and just be happily collecting another knight in return, and that's what happens. So I'm assuming that's probably white's best move. Let's see, what other plan of action does he have? It's hard to say where else he's going to move that knight, and putting the king on e2 just doesn't feel right, although it does maybe expedite a few things for white. He's that close to getting his queen rook into play. Just have to move the bishop, and then that rook's ready to go. But so king e2 might be. It just doesn't smell right to me, but you never know. So this certainly is a forcing continuation. It makes black accept the exchange of the pieces. Now black has a threat, knight f6, which is forking a couple of guys, but white has resources. Even if it was black's move, white could probably play rook h4 here, but it's white's move, so he has a chance to deal with that in advance, and he picks rook h4 anyway. So there you have it. White's playing what he wants to play. Now he's guarded h2, and he's got this terrific attack going against the black king. But black should be okay here. That's just my gut feeling, because I still think this is probably theory somewhere, and the position has been seen before. But I'll ask one question and say maybe why it isn't. Look at the white clock. He spent 20 minutes. I mean, he's got 20 minutes left, so he's been taking his time on this game. So it could be that we've gone into brand new territory. I don't know. But what does black do? He plays queen f6, and I'm not saying that's the best. Could be. Candidate move might be to play knight f6, and then the advantage of that is it attacks. Well, it doesn't really attack the bishop. You can't take it, but it starts swinging black pieces over to the king side. So, like I say, we want to get this bishop into play somehow, somewhere, anywhere, just to help out. And after white, oh wait, there's a problem. Bishop e4, check, and looks like black's dropping his queen. Ouch. Okay, so that explains queen f6. We have to check these things. If we don't check them, we don't know them. Okay, so queen f6, and let's see. The point of that is it threatens the rook on h4, so white can't do his little discovery trick at the moment. He's got to deal with that rook, and he plays to h3, and now black just ends the game on a blunder. I believe it's right here. Yeah, g5. Now pause the video. White to play and do the best he can. Okay, you've resumed the video, and I've already shown this trick. What's white do? He just plays bishop g8, check, and it doesn't matter what black does, he's going to get checkmated. King takes or king g7, either one, it doesn't matter. White has queen h7 mate, so black just got careless, and he had time on the clock. How much did he take on that move? Let's see. He took just over 2 minutes and didn't see a two-mover. Ouch. Okay, so what else does black do? Well, one thing about the position, while we wrap this up, is these guys on both sides never move, so they both played without a rook and a bishop the entire game. They both gave odds, and white won with a depleted army against a depleted army. But it seems like what black's got to do is make some air for his king, put the rook on e8 or d8. e8 makes more sense because maybe there's a potential to possibly play queen takes d4. There's a pin, so let's just put it on e8. And the point is, this trick doesn't work anymore because black has created some left for his king, and white gets a couple nuisance checks, and then he's out of checks, and black's a piece ahead and probably going to win this. So rook e8, what's white do? Well, he can give another discovered check. Okay, he can just safeguard that thing once and for all, and probably we have essentially an even position here. Black will be trying to get this knight into play just to attack that rook. So white would love to complete his development, but he, at some point you've got to watch out for that knight e5 or whatever. Where's what's white going to do? He might play just in advance. He might play rook h7 just to have it on a menacing square, and maybe invite g6. So then we can put the rook on h6, and then maybe we can play for e4, even though d4 hangs. Maybe we're getting some activity to just move. Got to be careful. The king is on that file and the rook's on the file. So I don't know. Black probably has resources here, and that's up to the players of the game and anybody interested in following for sharing with us, because I can't explain it all, and that's why I invite you to come in and talk. All right. Thanks so much for your time. It was a pleasure making this video, and I'll be back again soon with another. Thanks.